He's getting away.
Must go faster.
You'll never get me. I'm invincible.
It's now or never.
I'm gonna jump it.
What?
You'll never make it.
I have to try. Tell Loganberry I love her. Geronimo!
I know what you're thinking. How on earth did these guys end up here? Well, let's back up a bit and I'll explain. You see, today I'm simulating a chase sequence in Daggerheart. Before we start, it's worth pointing out that this kind of thing works best when using theatre of the mind. I'm only using fancy props and things because it works better on YouTube. But I digress. Welcome to Carlton Woods, usually a peaceful forest. This changed earlier today when an evil sorcerer known as the Mist entered its borders. Luckily for the peaceful folk who inhabit the region, an adventuring party was hot on the sorcerer's tail. Our heroes today are Shell, a guardian with elf ancestry and from a seaborn community. Jacket Potato Dispenser, or JPD for short, a Seraph clank from an underborn community. And Pumpkin, a ranger with River ancestry and Wanderborn community. The party tracked down the evil sorcerer to a clearing where he was already performing some dark arcane magic. The ritual was nearly complete when our heroes arrived. There he is.
Grab him.
But before anyone can draw a weapon, the Mist, who has no intention of answering to his magical crimes, leaps aboard his enchanted chariot and speeds away along the woodland path. Our heroes kick their heels into their mounts and tear away in pursuit. The GM declares that he will now start a chase countdown and puts 2 D8s on the table. The left-hand one represents our heroes' progress. If it reaches 0, they catch the Mist. The right-hand one represents the Mist's escape. The Mist starts at 7 to represent his lead, and if his countdown reaches 0, then he escapes. The GM asks the adventurers to describe their pursuit.
I look for a shortcut, says Shell. Maybe we can cut him off.
The DM asks Shell to make an instinct roll to see if she can find a new, quicker path through the trees. All rolls in this example will be against the sorcerer's difficulty rating of 15. And I should point out that the sorcerer is using a slightly modified version of the Spellblade stat block. Shell uses her Queen of the Wilderness experience to add +3 to the roll. Sadly, this is not enough, and she gets a failure with hope. Shell gains a hope, and because she failed, the GM gets to make a move. Now, the Daggerheart rulebook gives the following advice when someone fails with hope. Describe how the PC fails to get what they want and how the situation goes wrong as a result by introducing a minor complication or consequence as a GM move. If in doubt, an obvious move is to describe the worsening situation and ask the player to mark as stress. In combat, you could activate an adversary, but remember to consider the narrative of the current situation when deciding on your move. In this instance, the GM describes how Shell turns her head to look for an alternate path, but she takes her eyes off the road and a branch thwacks her on the head, causing her to nearly fall from her steed. Her friends have to slow down. The Mist sees this and laughs maniacally. Now let's look at the countdown die. On a failure with hope, the sorcerer's die ticks down by 2, and he's even closer to escaping. JPD tries to hinder the escaping enemy by attacking him with his returning blade. He makes an attack roll. And that's a success, but with fear. This means that JPD gets what he wants, but there's a consequence, and the GM gains a fear. First, JPD rolls for damage, scoring a 7, which is minor damage for the sorcerer. Because JPD rolled with fear, the GM makes a move, describing how the whizzing blade from JPD's attack slices through an overhanging tree to drop onto the forest path, and the group have to swerve to avoid it. On a success with fear, both countdowns tick down by 1. Now, Pumpkin decides to do something which most of us would find pretty gross. She uses her tongue, which has a range of close, and attempts to grab the cart's brake, hoping to slow it down. She makes a finesse roll. but gets a failure with fear, meaning things do not go as planned and get worse. Firstly, the GM takes a fear and describes how Pumpkin's tongue misses its mark. Unfortunately, it gets caught in the wheel axle. Pumpkin is wrenched from her saddle and is now being pulled along the ground by her tongue. The GM tells her she is vulnerable until she can free herself. The Mist spurs ahead as his countdown timer ticks down by 3. Now the GM has made a move, but he wants to make another. Spotlighting the sorcerer, he spends a fear to do so. He describes how the sorcerer fires his staff at the vulnerable Pumpkin. As she is vulnerable, he rolls with advantage. He hits, but the damage is weak, only a minor for Pumpkin, and she marks 1 hit point. With the play returning to the players, JPD tries to free his friend by attacking the wheel axle where her tongue is caught. She tries to protest, but no one can understand her. He lets loose with his returning blade once more. He gets a success, with hope. The GM asks JPD to describe what happens, and he says that the blow causes the wheel to fall clean off, and Pumpkin's tongue comes whizzing back into her mouth like a tape measure. Shell catches her and heaves her up behind her on the horse. The GM adds that the Mist's cart is temporarily slowed, but carries on despite the missing wheel. The hero's countdown timer ticks down by 2. Pumpkin, ever the daredevil in the group, decides to do something rash. She stands up and prepares to jump onto the cart.
I'm gonna jump it!
What?
You'll never make it.
The GM tells Pumpkin she will need to make an agility roll if she wants to jump the distance.
Tell Loganberry I love her! Geronimo!
She closes her eyes and prepares to leap. And fails, with hope. The GM describes how she leaps high into the air, but gets snagged on an overhanging branch before crashing back down to the ground. Shell and Pumpkin watch this all play out in horror, taking their eyes off the Mist to make sure their friend is okay. With his countdown die ticking down to 0, the evil sorcerer has made his escape. Let's watch this whole sequence one more time and see how things could have gone differently. I look for a shortcut, says Shell. Maybe we can cut him off. The DM asks Shell to make an instinct roll to see if she can find a new, quicker path through the trees. She uses her Queen of the Wilderness experience to add +3 to the roll. Fantastic! She gets a success with hope. The GM asks her to describe what happens.
We see a track as we approach the bend. We get off the road before the Mist sees what we're doing.
Excellent, says the GM. When the Mist turns around, you have completely disappeared. Fools! He shouts. But when he turns again a minute later, there you are, closer than ever before. The hero's countdown die descends by 2. It's looking like they might catch him now. Now, JPD tries to hinder the escaping enemy by attacking him with his returning blade. He gets a failure with fear. The GM gains a fear and then describes how the Mist deflects the blow with ease, then sends the attack hurtling back towards the pursuing heroes, cutting through their path and causing their horses to rear up. The Mist's countdown descends by 3. Now Pumpkin decides to do something which most of us would find pretty gross. She uses her tongue and attempts to grab the cart's brake, hoping to slow it down. It's another success with hope. Pumpkin gains a hope and the GM asks her to describe what happens. She says that her tongue firmly clamps around the wooden brake. She yanks and the cart judders as it instantly slows. She reels her tongue back in. The hero's countdown die descends by 2. This chase could go either way. The GM describes how the evil sorcerer yanks the brake off and soon gains full speed again. JPD decides to launch an attack at the cart's wheel, hoping to put it out of action for good. This time he gets a failure, with hope. The attack misses, JPD gains a hope, and the GM gets to make another move. He keeps it simple this time, describing how the Mist turns to blow a raspberry at the pursuing group, and tells JPD to mark a stress. The sorcerer's countdown descends by 2. Shell tries to wipe the smug look off his face by shooting him with her crossbow. She rolls a success with fear. She gets what she wants, but as a consequence, and the GM gains a fear. She rolls for damage and again scores minor damage to the sorcerer. Now both countdowns tick down by 1. The Mist decides it's time to get rid of these pesky pursuers once and for all, and uses his suppressing blast attack. He marks a stress to target all of the adventurers behind him. They must succeed on agility reaction rolls or take 1d8 plus 2 magic damage. Miraculously, they all succeed. Please note here that reaction rolls do not tick down the countdown die.
He's getting away.
Must go faster.
Mwahaha! You'll never get me. I'm invincible. It's now or never.
Pumpkin, ever the daredevil in the group, decides to do something rash. She stands up and prepares to jump onto the cart.
I'm gonna jump it.
What?
You'll never make it.
I have to try. Tell Loganberry I love her.
The GM tells Pumpkin she will need to make an agility roll if she wants to jump the distance. She closes her eyes and prepares to leap.
Geronimo!
And scores a critical success. How do you want to do this? Says the GM. Pumpkin describes how she flies through the air with the grace and style of a circus performer before landing deftly on her feet inside the cart with the mist. On a critical success, the player's countdown die ticks down by 3, and they have caught the mist. He throws his hands in the air, shocked at the group's resourcefulness.
Fine, you've got me,
he says.
but I'll have the last laugh. You wait and see.
Thank you for watching today's Daggerheart video. I quite enjoyed making this one. As usual, I may have made a few mistakes here and there, but I think you'll agree that if this was a real session, it would be great fun for all the players. Let me know what you think in the comments, and please subscribe because I've got much more great Daggerheart videos planned. And if you chase anything this week, chase your dreams.